Welcome back to Play on Gamers, the video game podcast with my partner in crime, Ben Silverman. Ben, how you doing, buddy?
Well, my friend, another late night recording.
Yes.
One of these days we'll do a daytime one. But
yeah, right. Maybe when we actually play some games. We've been talking. We do have a lot of things planned. You'll see the show evolve slowly, the thumbnails, the tech, and hopefully we'll do some live stuff, some game casts and stuff like that. But I'm excited about that.
Yep.
We do have a very full show. Since we last met, I was in Nashville getting drunk for a bachelor party, so I've missed some news, but I've been desperately trying to catch up, and a little bit on gaming as well, like actually playing. But Ben is going to take the helm on a lot of the news today. But we're going to obviously talk about everything. I'm well caught up on everything. But Ben, anything you want to say before we get started?
No, it's thanks for joining in. It's been a rough week for me. I don't know if I brought this up last week, but my wife is finishing up her last year with the Army. So I'm on baby duty for another week. So I work, I come home, baby, sleep. So that's why we're doing this late night.
Yes,
because it's the only time I can sit at a computer.
Yeah, but you know what? I wouldn't want it any other way. Yeah, nothing more fun than being delusional and talking about video games.
Yeah, it brings us back to our LAN party overnight days back in high school.
Exactly. Yeah. Belly full of balls and.
That's right. You gotta drink the balls.
You gotta drink the balls.
Gotta drink those balls.
Yeah, back when video gaming was the underbelly of being cool, where nobody knew that video games were cool.
I still remember trying to get the LAN working in my basement or running cables all over the place. And it'd be 1 o'clock before we got anything working. We were all too tired or hopped up on caffeine to even play anything.
But we would every time.
Yeah, we'd play. Yeah, Call of Duty 2. Counter-Strike. Yeah, it's good. Those are good times.
And nobody had a laptop that was capable of doing anything. So you had to bring in your full tower.
Full towers.
With the big old monitors. You know what I mean?
Those are the days, man.
What a mess.
A little different now, but.
Okay, well, I think that actually probably relates to our first story here, how far technology has come. Let's talk about it. So AMD's DLSS competitor has been announced and also works with Nvidia's 10 series and up. So this is a pretty big news story. I mean, I'll let you go into this in depth, Ben, and go through the technology upgrades. But overall, AMD is they're making a splash, and this is a very aggressive move and shows why they're so highly competitive today. They're also slightly cheaper for the most part. So making a move like this, and we'll talk about Nvidia as well after this directly. But this is actually pretty impressive, and it's also, I believe, compatible with Xbox Series X. Something that's going to be very difficult for competitors to match. Ben, what do you want to go into it?
Yeah, so AMD is launching in a couple days, actually the end of this month, their competitor to NVIDIA's DLSS technology. And for those of you who are not familiar with what DLSS is, I understand it on a very basic level, but normal super sampling is when your computer is rendering a game at a much higher resolution than you're capable of displaying. So if you're playing at 1080p, but you got a badass video card, you can render the game at 4K or 2K, and it'll increase your visual your image quality at 1080p. You're basically drawing the game twice on top of one another to increase the fidelity. That obviously uses extra GPU power. DLSS is deep learning super sampling, and what that does is it kind of does the opposite. You run the game at a lower resolution, so you're gaming at 1080p, but you want to play at 4K, you don't have the horsepower to do it. DLSS, or at least on NVIDIA's side, uses AI and deep learning to scan the image or scan the frame and guess at what is supposed to be there, and it fills it in. So in a lot of places, you'll get insane performance boosts with frames per second with marginal degradation in video quality. So the downside to NVIDIA's DLSS, while amazing technology, is that they only support the 30 series cards and up. The 20 series cards and up. Anything with RTX, which are the cards that don't really need this technology. This technology is a game changer, in my opinion, for low-powered computers to be able to play high-powered games. So AMD created something similar. Doesn't use deep learning, but it uses other methods to guess at the frame and fill it in. But the difference is it's open to all cards, not all cards, but any recent cards, Nvidia, AMD, and older Nvidia cards, cards that even Nvidia's DLSS doesn't support. So the 10 series can take advantage of AMD's, and I'm not familiar with the naming scheme on the AMD cards, but at least 2 generations back, it'll work. So the exciting thing is, I'm going to throw this up on the screen. This is one of their games, obviously, that this is Godfall, which is a PS5 console exclusive and a PC game. But just looking at this with 4K ray tracing, natively you would run it at 50 frames per second, and with these different levels of fidelity FX or super sampling, you could get up to 150 frames per second. Oh. Yeah. So this is best case scenario. Obviously, when you run these games with Nvidia, when you run this with an Nvidia card, you get you get less performance boost, but it still is significant. You're talking about going from 30 frames per second to a 60 frames per second game potentially, and that's huge.
Yeah. So, and obviously, and we'll talk about this in a minute with Nvidia, but with the market for cards, like I think I was saying this on the last episode, that I sold my 1060, like for over what I paid for it, to be honest with you. You got to figure you're going to be able to squeeze a lot more out of those older cards.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's been so hard to get cards right now. So
that's the thing. This generation is going to last longer than previous generations, consoles and PCs. And that also leads into another story upcoming.
Well, real quick before we move on to there, do you think, since you and I both are supporting the 3070, do you think in the future that this will actually beef up the performances of those cards as well?
So it does. If you so a game that takes advantage of NVIDIA's super sampling or DLSS is Call of Duty Warzone or Call of Duty Cold War.
Okay.
So you can turn on DLSS within Cold War, and suppose that I game at 1440p, I get 90 frames per second cranked maybe. I could turn DLSS on, and with basically no degradation in image quality at all, I could get that to 140, 130 frames per second.
That's phenomenal.
So there's different versions of it. Just like with AMDs, you can turn on performance or quality or ultra performance. When the higher up you go with the performance, the more Vaseline-y you'll notice that it gets. Like in the distance, a chain link fence you won't be able to see the individual links or things like that. But up close, things will be better. So yeah, I think there's a lot of room for it to improve with modern cards, especially if you're a frame rate whore like I am, and you're willing to sacrifice some of that visual quality to get that frame rate. So if I were to start gaming at 4K, 3070 is a great card, but it's not going to get me 150 frames per second on these modern games.
Well, let's get a little less hardcore with this. Like, let's say somebody has kind of an old gaming computer, or not even an old gaming computer, an old laptop, right? Where they want to game on it. You think that maybe even some integrated cards are going to benefit from this?
I don't think the integrated cards will. Maybe the AMD APUs, which are their graphics chips on in a processor together.
Right.
That's potential, but I would have to do some more research into it. But I think you need specific, like in NVIDIA, they're called CUDA cores. I think they're still called CUDA cores, but they're individual cores. There's hundreds of them on the card that can do this sampling and this learning and this interpreting what's supposed to be filling in. Integrated graphics just don't have those dedicated cores. Right. They use regular CPU and memory and all kinds of stuff to emulate these cores, but they don't have the horsepower to make those guesses. So I don't know if you're going to see the same boost with a dedicated or integrated.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. But the reason I asked, and I don't really think that that's to be the case, but you look at stream gaming and how popular it's being, and this is one of those things where it's like, okay, well, now if you can get more impact out of your video card, all of a sudden, as this technology advances, like, can we start doing more of that with like I run a MacBook to record this, and obviously Mac is more the issue, but there's no special video card in here really. It's just an integrated Intel. Like, could they start turning an average computer into a gaming computer down the line? I just wonder, if that possibility will ever come to fruition.
Well, the great thing about right now is there's options. Streaming gaming is an awesome tool. Obviously, I have a gaming PC. You have a gaming PC. I subscribe to GeForce Now, which is a streaming service. Right. I pay their founders price, $5 a month. It gives me access to a lot of my Steam and Epic Games Store library to stream on any computer.
Yep.
I use Parsec to stream from home. I've tried Stadia. Even back in the OnLive days, 8-9 years ago, they were way ahead of their time. Gaikai,
yep.
When they did the Mass Effect 3 demo with Gaikai, like the original Mass Effect 3 demo on Gaikai. All these technologies, they've finally evolved. And if you have the internet connection, it doesn't even have to be crazy. I forgot the best one is xCloud. Not the best, but the most impressive. So even if you don't have the best internet connection, a lot of games are still playable. So if you have, hot trash 4G LTE service, you can still play XCOM on a phone, or you can play, some kind of slower Civilization, something turn-based that you normally need a gaming PC to do. Now, if you have a faster connection, if you got that good, like I got gigabit at home, you could stream first-person shooters. I wouldn't play it online. You're going to get whooped because there is still lag. But so you can't, streaming games I think is perfect for a MacBook like yours. Any older computer. Streaming gaming is nothing to be laughed at these days, I don't think. But yeah, you're right. For other people that can get their hands, as this evolves over the years, you get your hands on a 2070 or a 2060 Super or something like that. You should be able to play, God of War 2, Last of Us 2 when it comes to PC at 4K using DLSS technology.
Yeah. And that's what I think is exciting. It's like you don't have to get priced out so early. And I guess this gets us right into our next story. And Ben, I'll let you take over from here, but I'll go through the initial part.
Sure.
Nvidia completely shocks no one, I guess, to some degree. Announces a new card launching June 3rd, so it already launched. The RTX 380 Ti priced at $1,200. Funny because you can't get their current lineup, so why they would launch a new one is beyond me. But take it from here.
This announcement's annoying on multiple levels, mainly because they pronounce the Ti as T. They call it the 3080 T. Like nobody calls it the T.
Just obnoxious.
Yeah. Why? Stop trying to make that happen. It's not going to happen. So there's a global shortage of silicon chips. There's a global shortage of everything right now.
Right.
Prices are through the roof. Even before the global shortage of chips, demand was so high from people working at home, new consoles coming out. Nobody could get their hands on these graphics cards. And instead of putting their efforts into making more available, they decide to release a $1,200 RTX 3080 Ti when nobody can get the 3080s or the 3070s. So the 3080 Ti is, basically a 3090, but much cheaper.
What is it, like $400 cheaper or something like that?
Yeah, it's about it's
$300.
1,200 to 1,500 MSRP,
Yeah, so
but you're probably looking at like 50,000 to 40,000 in scalper prices.
So as I say, it's not even going to be 1,200. It's probably already sold out, realistically.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean it's a decent price for what you're getting, but um, when you're comparing it to a 3090, it's very similar, except it's got half the memory. But compared to the 3080, to the regular 3080, I don't see that double price comparison there.
Do you think that they're hoping that it could bring the price down of the 3080?
I don't think they're hoping it brings any prices down because they're selling everything they make.
That's true.
They're I don't think they care. I think that they see an opportunity to sell a new card at a higher MSRP instead of selling a $700 3080. Now they've got a $1,200 3080 Ti. They're doubling their money just based off of regular pricing.
I think you're spot on there, and they probably are looking at the scalper market and they're like, well, people are paying $1,200 for the 3080 as it is.
Yeah.
So let's just make a card that, if they can get their hands on it directly from us, we can make a little bit more and essentially manufacturing a very similar product.
Yeah, I just don't understand their thinking here. I mean, everything, it was a perfect storm to to kill the market with crypto blowing up. Everyone's using these cards to mine, and despite their best efforts of trying to put limiters in these cards, people are finding ways around them. It's work from home, COVID, manufacturing shortage, material shortage, shipping container shortage to bring shit over here. And they're deciding to release new products that nobody can get. So the 3080 Ti is actually out already.
Yeah,
they're going to launch on the 3rd.
June 3rd.
They're also launching 3070 Ti for $600 in a couple days, June 10th. Yeah.
Well, that pisses me off. Not really.
It's basically a 3080, and
it's a good. I mean, to be honest with you, it is a good price though. That 37, yeah, 37.
You'll never see one in the wild.
No.
But, yeah.
It's like the 2070 Super, right? I mean, it's like
that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Is the replacement for the 2070 Supers.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I honestly, we got so lucky, Ben, that we found our cars when we did, and like I feel for people right now trying to get a video.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous right now. People, and so that's where streaming gaming comes in. People, you go on Reddit, you go on all these places, they laugh at it, but some people just they can't get access to these cards. And in the past, I've never been a console gamer. I've owned consoles. I played game on consoles. I love certain games on consoles. I remember having to buy Madden on Xbox all the time before it returned to PC.
Yeah.
And when somebody would come to me and ask me what they should get for gaming, I would never recommend a console to them. I would always be like, hey, why don't you be an adult and build a gaming PC? But right now, get an Xbox One X. Or get a PS5 if you can find it. I mean, for the amount you're paying for those consoles, you're not going to be able to build a gaming PC for that matches that performance.
Not right now. But no. Now that you're saying it out loud though, and I only scoff at Google Stadia, and not because they're not capable, because I laugh at Google because I just knew that they were going to half-ass it to begin with. Like they obviously have the tech.
The tech is there. It's their store. It's their business
that's what
model.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like I saw that, like the launch titles and all that. I'm like, oh, this is not going to last.
They had it. They had it in the hand. Their technology is awesome. They need to do what GeForce Now is doing.
Yeah,
GeForce
but they don't
Now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, GeForce Now. Sorry, yeah. I don't mean to like capitalize the entire conversation.
No, it's important.
I love my streaming gaming. It got me through many nights as a dispatcher.
GeForce Now is an immense value in comparison to what Stadia is.
$5 a month, and there is a free tier. It limits you to an hour at a time at 1080p. And
Google does have a free tier as well, I think, right now.
No, you still have to buy the games from themselves.
them. Yeah, which is
so.
That's what I'm saying.
GeForce Now taps into your existing library, cloud saves, all that stuff. It's not every game; it's publisher dependent, but. I start a game at home on my gaming PC, and I go to work, and I got downtime. I want to play at lunch. I can load up GeForce Now and play. Cloud saves, import in my Steam. I'm good to go.
You know what, Ben, though? It's probably going to be the savior for keeping these prices down of the hardware. Because the competitor to that is stream gaming, and you're like, well, a lot of people are like desperate for these cards. They're going to switch to stream gaming, like you're saying.
It's if just they not can. Be possible.
Right, if they can.
You know, we live in the greater Philadelphia area where Comcast and Verizon are at war with each other. So that competition there is driving technology up and prices down. I pay $65 a month, $70 a month for gigabit speeds with Verizon. 1,000 up, 1,000 down.
Yeah.
There's people that are less than an hour's drive from us that would be happy to have 10 megabits up and down. And they're probably paying like $150. So it's not an option. Find a card. And they can't, and they won't, and so they can't find a console. Buy a card. Yeah, they can't buy any of this stuff. So it's not an option for everybody, but there is a good market for streaming. There's a good market for technologies that enable older technologies to play these games. And that's why I think Fidelity FX is such a big thing, especially because we kind of buried the lead here, but both consoles are AMD cards.
Yes.
They're both GPUs. So they are optimized for this technology is optimized for those consoles already. And Xbox already put out a statement. I think I have it here. Taylor Lyle's got a quote from a Microsoft spokesperson. They said, at Xbox, we're excited by the potential of AMD's Fidelity FX super resolution technology as another great method for developers to increase frame rates and resolution. We'll have more to share on this soon. Soon being E3.
E3. Yep.
Guarantee Microsoft on the stage says something about this. You know, we're giving you 4K 60 on all these games now using this technology, or coming soon or something.
Yep. And then Sony will probably follow suit afterwards because I
don't see why they wouldn't.
Well, yeah, and they're just going to be a little behind on the software side because you're not as good as a software company, so it might take them a little bit longer to integrate. But I mean, it does make the consoles highly appealing now, like you said.
Yeah.
Even to PC gamers that maybe can't get a hold of these. You know, it could even be a supplement because, look, let's be honest. To a lot of people, $500 is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money to everybody. Yeah.
Yes, it is. But I'm an idiot, right? And I don't have a family. I don't have a baby. To me, I'm easily spending $500. Like we'll talk about the new Switch. I was like, oh, I'm buying it. I don't even know why. You know, but there is a subsect of gamers that will lead the market, at least for that first year or so, right? Because they're not going to sell everything. But it's like, it's almost how they got away with selling the Switch in the beginning, right? They knew that Zelda people, they're going to go out and spend. Like, I overspent for Zelda. I bought the book bag. I bought the special edition. I spent double what I should have on that. But there is a market of gamers that are capable of doing that. There's the majority of people who are not and aren't going to, but that's not who you have to hit in the beginning, right? You can really hit that 10% of your audience. And then as things kind of, stabilize, then everybody else can, spend the normal prices. Kind of like how consoles start at a really high price and then they drop, right? It's like, there are those idiots in the beginning that will shell out all that money. The ones who will buy their console on eBay for $1,000, right? Because they're desperate. I would have never done that. But you know what I mean? Like, I think that's relevant as well. Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I found this earlier. I meant to play it, but you're looking at, so if we freeze this here, sorry to jump back, but No Man's Sky native 4K on the 2060 Super. That's last generation's card, and it's an older of last generation's card. Mm-hmm. Native 4K, you're getting 38 frames per second. And I played No Man's Sky. You and I played together. That's best case scenario. 38 frames per second at native 4K. DLSS at 4K, you're getting 75.
That's phenomenal.
And this is just one game. This is one example.
No, it's
2060 Super, 40 frames, 70 frames.
I mean, it's like giving steroids to your card.
And I dare you to try and find a difference between these two. There you go. In my opinion, DLSS looks even better.
Yeah, and it's funny. I have heard that, like, as this technology was kind of coming in the background, I've heard that there are cases where it looks better. It's super impressive. It's like super impressive.
Yeah, I think it has a bright future in gaming, especially with AMD getting in on it now. They do it in a different way, not necessarily a better or a worse way, but it's exciting. For me, it's exciting because I'm not too afraid to buy a 4K monitor now.
Oh wow, that's actually a really good point because I was thinking about that as you were talking, where a lot of the games that we want to play to get it at 60 frames at least.
Yeah, we have good cards. Yeah,
I love playing everything in 4K HDR. You know what I mean? And when you do that, and the ray tracing and all that stuff that we're talking about, you're really taxing your system, and this is giving that ability to kind of because a lot of the issues with. And this happened last generation too, right? When the consoles launched, it's like it was all these high promises and then weren't able to do it. This way, it's like it's not even on the console manufacturers or even like the PC gamer manufacturers, like even Alienware or Razer, right? It's not on them so much even. They can continue to manufacture what they're doing, and then all of a sudden their product becomes better overnight.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty huge. To them, it's like I wouldn't be surprised if they're working directly with AMD / probably Nvidia as well to make sure that this is comes out as fast as possible, because to them it's like, why wouldn't we want this? This removes the apologies from our product.
Yeah, and it's their technology.
Yeah. So. All right, let's anything else you want to say about that? Otherwise we'll move on to the next topic.
We should move on. We're going to be here all night.
Okay, well, we'll probably be doing that anyway. All right, let's move on. You showed some footage a little bit, and I have a feeling this is kind of like a perfect segue. No Man's Sky does it again, and by does it again, I mean another release to upgrade their game, this time to upgrade it graphically, more post-launch content, and this game is essentially becoming something that way beyond the initial promises. And I mean, I've watched this video earlier. I think I watched it yesterday. I mean, it looks gorgeous now.
Oh my God.
The flying, you can ride creatures, the rain, the reflections, just the amount of textures. This is becoming what looks to be a AAA game at this point.
It's bypassed what they promised.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, go ahead. Do you have anything else to say about it beyond what I was kind of talking about? Oh, this is also in VR. We should make it clear.
Yeah, so these visual upgrades apply to VR. They added DLSS support, which we showed before. That also applies to VR. The game, they keep updating this damn game. Yeah. I don't understand. They screwed up in the beginning, but my God, have they made up for it in the past few years?
Well, they needed time.
Yeah, I guess
they're humongous.
They were a victim of being overhyped, but then they fulfilled every promise they made and more. They can't be making that much money still with continued resources being poured into this game. They've done like 10-15 major patches over the past couple years. Everything's free. They've never had a single piece of paid DLC.
Why do you think? I mean, there has to be some kind of plan here to make money. They're building an immense engine. I mean, maybe they plan on selling the engine to some degree to other games to utilize, but
so Murray did talk about like making another game of the scope of No Man's Sky. I think they will not make the same mistake they did before, and they'll wait to announce it until it's ready to be shown. But this is the model for making up to your audience.
Yeah.
Fallout 76 screwed up. Mass Effect Andromeda screwed up.
They fixed a lot though as well.
They did.
76, and they're still putting a lot of money into it.
They're trying, but man,
look at this. Ben, I mean, I was playing it in VR. Like, this makes me want to. I haven't played for a while. Obviously, this makes me want to revisit it in VR.
I put a lot of time into this game, and with DLSS now, we won't get nauseous skipping around with VR. But
this is a game that never had the visual fidelity to make it as immersive as it could be.
No,
and it's almost like they're just chasing a dream with this game.
I think they get high, and they get hopped up on whatever.
Look at that tunnel.
Yeah,
that looks so much more intriguing than what I saw before.
Yeah, they're like, what if we were riding a giant butterfly with a giant sandworm around? And Sean Murray's like, holy shit, that's fucking genius.
Yeah,
let's ride the motherfucking butterflies.
Yeah, man. I mean, they have to be incentivized to do this for some degree, like because they can sell this engine for another company to use. And I mean, the procedurally generated engine that they've created with, again, the ability to run all this stuff, the ability to go from planet to planet. There are other games that are not capable of doing this. So there has to be something at the end of this rainbow that they're chasing after.
They're going to have to use it in the future, and you got to imagine every company's tried to buy them.
Yes.
Microsoft's throwing money around like it's going out of style. You have to imagine they tried.
That's
and
a good point.
Sony too. This was on Sony's stage 4 years ago.
Correct. They probably don't want to work.
They don't. They seem to not want to. Not after Sony. Yeah, after what they did.
Yeah. And I love Sony, but again, it's not that they threw them under the bus, but they
way overpromised.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of forced them to make up, to try to rebuild because right now, I mean, they're probably one of the most talented studios, and they went from being, a studio that's kind of like, oh yeah, who are these guys, to being, okay, like we got to take these guys seriously, because if they do have a new IP coming and they have all these lessons learned from a game like this, like what can they actually launch now, especially if they're building it in secrecy in the background for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Like what can they release?
And you got to imagine, 5 years ago, if No Man's Sky had been on an indie stage and they just showed what the game actually was, that everyone would have loved it.
Yeah.
And instead of promising all these things and straight up lying, sorry, Sean, but you straight up lied about multiplayer on Conan or wherever you were.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Ben. Actually, I just had an interesting thought. So we both love the Quest. That is a GPU built into it. Is that a case where we can get maybe No Man's Sky running on Quest at some point in the future?
Quest is basically an Android phone,
right? The Tegra
built in there. No, it's an Adreno something.
Oh, okay.
It runs off a Qualcomm Snapdragon.
Yeah,
Snapdragon 855, 865, something like that. I forget which. Sorry, my dog is going crazy in the background. So I would doubt it, because although it's capable, you would have to rewrite it for a Linux. I don't really want to speak out.
Let's not assume. What about streaming it?
So streaming VR works well. I do it. I told you about that locally. Yeah, I could see something like that.
Because that's where, if you can get a game like No Man's Sky running on maybe it won't be a Quest 2, right? Maybe it'll be a different device. But if you can do a portable version of No Man's Sky.
Yeah, something similar or toned down. Because the No Man's Sky special sauce with the planets and all that stuff is generated like on the fly with a mathematical formula they've talked about before. So that itself is doable, but they've enhanced the game so much since then. I don't think it would run. Okay,
but that's what I was thinking. How could they recoup their money? And VR is a growing market.
Yeah,
and that is the best VR experience in my opinion so far. I mean, just flying from planet to planet. It's something everybody should try. It's literally something that I'm like, I wish everybody who tried VR could experience this. Of going, like, you know what I mean? Like leaving the atmosphere, looking out your window and just kind of seeing that. It's like, it takes that scale, that experience to the next level.
Yes. Yeah. You can't really describe. I mean, my first real experience with this was with a game called Elite Dangerous.
Right.
Which,
also very cool in VR.
Amazing, unbelievable in VR. I had a throttle, I had a stick. I put the headset on, just flying through an asteroid belt and being able to like turn around while I'm dogfighting. And
I couldn't even play that game with mouse and keyboard. I tried.
No,
I couldn't play it. In VR, it felt like second nature.
Yeah,
immediately.
You're looking around like when I still remember that when I was doing a bounty hunting mission, and I'm in the ring of a planet. And I'm looking for the guy, and I'm leaning forward over the edge of my ship to look down to see if he's below. Like, it's just natural. I didn't even think about that. And it worked. And my brain didn't even realize what I was doing.
Yeah.
Never does.
All right. Well, yeah, no, that's pretty awesome. And honestly, shout out to No Man's Sky. If you guys have
Yeah.
not picked that game up, I think it's probably pretty cheap at this point. I know,
It's never on it. The best sale I've ever seen. It's 50%.
right? Which I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it's for what you're getting. I would consider that cheap.
Oh my God. Yeah. I've gotten
Yeah.
it. You're not going to see it on a Steam sale at like 80% off it. They just don't do that.
Right. But at the same time, that's probably why they can continue to support it, is because they're not dropping the price. There are third-party sites. I don't necessarily want to give them a shout out, but do your research. You can definitely find it for cheaper if you want. But definitely give them the money, because you can see they're giving it back to you. So
they of all developers, they deserve your money. They've earned it.
Absolutely. I love the way you're saying there. And Colin Moriarty says this all the time. We both obviously love his network.
Last Stand Media.
Yeah, Last Stand Media. Shout out to him. And quite frankly, he says it best: vote with your wallet. It's something I didn't understand when I was younger, for sure. But if you want games to live on, pay for them. Even if they're on sale, pay the developer directly. It's the only way to get more of what you want. And even like I'll just rip on EA for a little bit here. They get not even rip. I'll defend them actually. They get ripped a lot for creating the same game every year. It is the same game every year. But quite frankly, if you guys don't pay for it every year, people will stop producing it. Maybe not FIFA and Madden and whatnot, but like games like NHL.
The Ubisoft's famous for this. I forget whether it was Yves Guillemot that actually said it. But when they were talking about Assassin's Creed coming out every year and getting stale, he translated from French, I believe. He's basically just like, everyone keeps buying it.
Yes.
So we keep making it.
Yes.
And then people stopped buying it after Syndicate. And that's when you saw the break. And they changed it with Origins. And then there's another break between Odyssey and Valhalla. And
I thought Valhalla was so freaking boring. And I'm a sucker, and I bought it again for $60. And I knew when I bought it, I'm like, I'm buying this day one and I'm going to regret it. Like I knew it immediately.
Did I own it? I haven't turned it on. Not because I don't want to, because I desperately do. It's just finding time to get into a game like that right now.
There are better games. There are better open world games. It's like, I appreciate what they built, but the game, like, I could care less about the story. It's just, the annualization. Like, I don't blame people, but it's like, at the same time, if you want these brands to continue, otherwise they're going to stop making. Like, one of my favorite brands ever, and obviously it's coming back, but Ken Levine. I mean, I watched his studio shut down after creating one of my favorite games. And obviously, the first BioShock is still like top 5 on my list. And then BioShock Infinite is a phenomenal game as well.
Great game.
And it released, it was successful, and it's gone. The studio was gone like the next day, and it was heartbreaking to watch that. And it's like, sales matter; they matter immensely. So,
think we'll see something with BioShock or from Ken Levine, if one of the two.
How long is it? I've been hearing narrative Legos from him for how long? I would hope it's about time for him. I question. I do think we'll see something soon about BioShock. They definitely should, because they've been talking about making it, but obviously it's not going to be Ken Levine directed. I would love to see what he's working on next. Like we saw, We Happy Few. What's the Bethesda game that obviously has some influence from his team? The big one. Oh my God, why is the name escaping? The stealth one, first person.
Dishonored.
That obviously has some of his crew involved.
Love Dishonored.
Like his team has separated. You can see the touches of BioShock making their way into other first-person games, but the stories that he was able to write and I guess lead, that has not been replaced. So I want to see what he can do. Again, BioShock 1, I'm not going to do a spoiler. I don't even think it's worth mentioning it. But if you haven't played that game, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like
I think 15 years is spoiler is up. But there's no reason to mention it.
I don't even want to.
It's a great game. It's ahead of its time. I think we got Mass Effect and BioShock in the same year, the original, and it was a good year for gaming.
That was a great year. Yeah. Oh man. Well, we still have good games today, but that was amazing. One of the best shooters I've ever played ever. All right. Let's move on. Next topic. Nintendo announces E3 plans. So they're going to have on, what was the date here? I'm sorry, I lost it. June 15th. They're going to have a 40-minute direct and then a 3-hour playhouse where they're going to play some games. We don't know exactly what they're going to have. Odds are they're probably going to have some sort of Zelda. We don't know if they're going to have Metroid. There's some rumors going around. They're
gotta
obviously
drop the Metroid trilogy, right?
The trilogy, yeah, but I don't think they're going to announce that big new Metroid game. Do you?
No. Oh, show it?
No. Not now.
I don't think it's ready.
Not with Zelda. Like, I think they have to be smart about it too, though. Like, you don't want to unload everything you have. Like, Breath of the Wild alone would steal the show. So why would you announce both? You know what I mean? I think there'll probably be like one or two big games. Like, you'll probably hear Splatoon, right? They're never hesitant to really share that. So they'll probably have something for Splatoon 3. My guess is Breath of the Wild. And then I'm guessing some smaller games that we've never heard of that use one of their properties. Yeah, which is, can be great.
I would love to see a Mario vs. Rabbids too. I don't know if you played that game.
I played the first one and I enjoyed it. That was a long time ago.
I would, but do you show Breath of the Wild 2 without announcing a Switch Pro?
Did they say that they're not going to announce it?
They specifically said in their announcement that this is it, that they will be discussing upcoming software for
and
the
not
Nintendo
hardware.
Switch. Well, they didn't say not hardware. I
don't know.
I mean, there's still another week. Company. There's still another week, and they could just straight up lie to us.
Yes.
Like David Jaffe did about Twisted Metal, but
I'm okay with them lying to us, though. It doesn't really upset me if they lie to us.
I'm fine with that. Everything leaks nowadays, as we will get to.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't mind misdirection, to be honest with you, because I don't really care. I don't really like leaks, to be honest with you. It takes the fun out of it for me personally. Like, I'd rather just hear from the company. Like, I want them to have their ability to do their big presentation, how they want to do it. For me, honestly, like, I was shocked that they were even saying that there's a Switch coming in October without showing off anything. I really just want a date for Breath of the Wild 2. Yeah. And I don't expect it to come out this year. So I'm hoping for, that March date that we were talking about, which quite frankly, I have enough games to play and I still have to beat Breath of the Wild 1. I'm like at the end. So I still have to, dude, I am so weird with games, man. I played that game for 250 hours. I did everything around it and I have one castle left and I'm just kind of like, I'll wait at this point. Okay. But that's what I want. I want an incentive to buy the new console. And for me, it's like, okay, if I can get the new console, finish Breath of the Wild 1 on it, and then get ready for Breath of the Wild 2, like all within this few month window, because it's probably gonna be hard to find one anyway. That's what I'm excited about. If they can give me some other reason to get excited, like I don't expect a new Smash Brothers, right? I don't expect maybe a new Mario Kart. It's possible, but I doubt it. Right? Like, why are they going to blow their load? Pardon my French. Why are they going to blow their load, though, on anything but Breath of the Wild? That's why I have a hard time thinking, like, you don't announce Mario Kart and Breath of the Wild together. Like, Yeah,
I honestly don't know if we'll ever see another Mario Kart game. I just don't. Where do you go from there?
So well. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but it's going to sell again.
It's still like the number 2 selling game on Switch.
Yeah. I
know.
So
like, do you replace the number 2 selling game?
And that's not
still
even
selling
a new
for
game.
$60.
That's not even a new game. That was the Wii U game.
It's a Wii U game, yeah. It's still selling for $60 and it's still on the NPD charts every month.
Yes. So. I do think eventually we will get a new one, but it won't happen unless there's a real reason for it to happen. Like, it has to be a visual jump. Right. It has to be something that, that makes people go, oh my God, it can't just be, oh, we have some new courses and new carts. Right. It has to be like a large visual jump. And I think it depending on what the hardware is going to be for this next Switch. Is it going to be a real jump up or is it going to be a half step? I mean, odds are it's going to be a half step. It's not going to be
maybe some kind of like Mario Maker, but for kart.
That'd be cool though.
I mean, we've seen it before in other franchises, but
and they put Zelda Maker inside of oh my God, I keep forgetting the name of this. Not Link. What do they call Link's Awakening? Is it Link's Awakening?
Link's Awakening.
Yeah. Link's Awakening. They had that Zelda Maker, Dungeon Maker, which I didn't even use. I didn't have much interest.
Yeah.
I don't want to make my games inside of a game. But I don't know. For me, I love Nintendo, but really without Zelda, I wouldn't be as pumped about Nintendo. That's like the franchise that sells that console for me. If they didn't have it, I don't know if I would buy a Nintendo console, to be honest with you. Are you going to buy the new Switch when it comes out? Probably not.
I don't think so. And it's not because I don't want it. It's just I barely have enough time to game as it is.
What if they go for stream gaming?
They do stream gaming right now.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think they partner with Xbox?
No.
Cloud?
There's been
xCloud?
rumors about xCloud on Switch for
I don't think it's going to happen.
years.
It'd be a great way to piss off Sony, though, wouldn't it?
I just don't see the benefit. Like, what you got to think about is what's the Nintendo benefit to doing that?
None.
So what do they get out of it except money if they get a cut of anybody?
Which Microsoft won't do.
Well, they might. I mean, anybody. So you think about anybody who plays on Nintendo but is linked to their Xbox account, like they get 50% of their subscription or something like that.
Smash.
Yeah, you may get that, but there has to be an incentive. Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna see that. I think for the most part, I think Nintendo is gonna stick to what they do best, and I think it'll be probably as straightforward as we think, with maybe some little surprises put in there. But I don't think it. I just think they're too conservative a company to deviate that far from their model. Like I think they're gonna be like, hey, Zelda's a console seller, so we don't really need to do anything. All we have to do is keep doing what we're doing. Our console doesn't stop selling. We release a new version of it with a new, a new Zelda game, and it'll just continue to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And they got no problems.
Yeah. You're making good points here, Yariv.
Yeah. Well, keep it simple in Nintendo. They like to, so. All right. Let's move on to the next story. Next God of War.
Surprising story of all time.
Yeah, right. Not surprising at all. Next God of War game is delayed till 2022. Not surprising considering you've seen zero gameplay of it or a real trailer or even a final name.
Yep.
I did, I did hear. Oh, let me mention that it's going to be cross-gen as well with PS4. Mm-hmm. I guess they didn't officially announce that. But I think that was kind of suspected. I know that the studio is being harassed for this, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. To be harassed over a game delay where you didn't even see gameplay or a final release date. Like, and even if you did, it's still absolutely ridiculous. It's a video game, and we don't even know how much it's being delayed. So, it could be delayed to just March, or even just a few months later. That's really not that big of a deal. But yeah, Ben, your thoughts, and then I do want to talk about the cross-gen issue specifically.
Yeah, so let me just read the tweet from Sony Santa Monica that was announcing this.
Yep.
So Santa Monica Studios tweeted out, since the release of the next God of War teaser last year, we've been humbled by the amount of love our community has shown us. We're incredibly grateful to see so many people excited to experience the next chapter of Kratos and Atreus' journey. We remain focused on delivering a top quality game while maintaining the safety and well-being of our team, creative partners, and families. With this in mind, we've made the decision to shift our release window to 2022. Thank you for your continued support. We've got some exciting things in the works. We can't wait to show you. So they're blaming COVID, which is a valid thing, but I don't think this game was coming out with or without, global pandemic.
Completely agree.
So, I mean, it's a convenient, quote unquote, it's a convenient excuse, but
it was a mistake to show that teaser trailer when they did. I forget how long ago that was. That was probably like 6 months ago. Maybe.
Yeah, more. I can't believe. No, it was. Yeah, you're right. It was in November.
Yeah.
It was very surprising that they showed it that soon.
They didn't show anything though.
They showed a teaser trailer, but then they put 2021 on the screen at the end of it, like crazy people. Nobody thought that game was coming out in 2021.
No. That's what I said. Why are people upset?
I have no idea. I think they're more upset at the cross-gen thing than the 2021.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this cross-gen thing. Look, the reason why it's cross-gen, I think is the fiscal reason, which we all understand. Is that there are a hell of a lot of PS4s out there. Not everybody can get their hand on PS5s. It probably won't be the case by the time this game comes out. They're essentially, let's just say that they do sell a bunch of PS5s, which they will, right? But you're still probably leaving, I'm going to say a tentative 60 million gamers on PS4, right? Because they sold over 100 million of these things. So I'm being modest here with that projection. So let's say it's higher than that probably, but you're talking about 60 million console gamers that have the potential to buy this game. They're not going to leave that out there. And then from a guy who works in software development, this game that we're getting is the same engine of the first game. It's a beefed up version of the same engine. Most likely they're not building this thing from the ground up, which means it was already built to work on the PS4 to begin with. Right. And what they're doing is they're porting it over the PS5 and opening up new features for it to begin with. That's Correct. What we're getting. That's the same thing we're seeing with Horizon. We'll go into that, obviously. Mm-hmm. So again, it's not a case where they're limiting the game. If they built the game from the ground up the way Halo is, that is a game that I do expect them to leave the old Xbox behind because it's a brand new engine. Will they do that? I'm not sure. But at least in that case, they built a brand new engine specifically for that game that wasn't released on Xbox One, right? So the way I see it is there's really no loss here. This delay was always coming. It would be silly of them to leave that market behind. Same thing like Horizon. They're going to sell versions of this game, and it's not a complete open world game anyway. So it's not really going to be a problem. And it's most likely still going to be a phenomenal game. With a beefed up version of the same engine. You're going to look at it and you're going to be like, oh, more God of War. You're not going to look at it and be like, oh, this is the next gen. It's not going to be the old God of Wars to this God of War, right? You're not getting that kind of leap. So I really don't see the issue here. Would I want it earlier? Sure. I would say it's maybe my favorite game on the PS4. I freaking love that game. That's a 10 out of 10.
Amazing game.
So
10 out of 10 for a lot of people.
Yeah, but I'm not upset. There's so many good games to play. It's like nobody should be angry that there isn't games to play. Like I'm backed up as it is.
Right. Let me take you on a journey, Yariv.
All right. Take me.
It's May 29th, 2020. I quote, "We have always said that we believe in generations. We believe that when you go to all the trouble of creating a next-gen console, that it should include features and benefits that the previous generation does not include. And that, in our view, people should make games that can make the most of those features." I read that verbatim. I don't know.
Yeah.
We do believe in generations, and whether it's the DualSense controller, the 3D audio, the multiple ways the SSD can be used, we are thinking that it is time to give the PlayStation community something new, something different that can only be enjoyed on PlayStation 5. From Sony president and CEO Jim Ryan.
Yeah.
So I think this is where you're
everybody's
seeing,
favorite, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. Great guy. Protecting the kids. This is, I think, where you're seeing what's upsetting everybody is not so much that it's cross-gen, but they were promised that these games, unlike Xbox, who said that they're going to be supporting the One X for at least a year, maybe more. Sony said, we believe in generations. We're going to be releasing new games. We're going to be, the experience is only available on PS5. They can't work on PS4. It's not possible.
Well, they did do that with one game, Ratchet, which again, it's a brand new engine.
It's been an entire year. They've got 2 games or 3. How many games? Yeah. They got Returnal and they got Ratchet.
That's so 3. Yeah. Well, I guess Demon Souls, but that's.
So yeah, so they clearly can do it. They're not but. So here's, I agree with you. I'm playing devil's advocate on this.
Yeah, no, I get it though.
Why buy a PS5?
Because it's a vastly superior machine.
It is.
And I think it's as simple as that.
But I think the people who went out and scrambled and tried to buy the PS5 because they thought all these Sony games are going to be on PS5 only. You have Gran Turismo that was shown in November that had a watermark on it that said only available on PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Cross generation. Yeah. It's coming out on PS4.
Yeah, no, I you know what? It is the misleading aspect where if they were just honest about it, Like, I think their case is like, oh, we're going to have features that are only available on the PS5.
Right. And I believe them, but be straight up. Be like, look, there's 500 million PS4s out there, 50 million PS4s out there. Like, that's billions of dollars in revenue. We can't just abandon that in a global global pandemic where,
especially on their top game. There's a reason these games are coming to PC.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm not surprised by it. Nobody seems surprised by it. I know why it's happening. Do I think we'll get a dumbed down game? I don't think so, but I think that it may have limited their creativity. I think it may have limited their ambitions, maybe, or their willingness to try something new.
Ambitions, yeah. Well, let's think about it though. This game has been in development for, when's the last one came out? 2017. So you got to figure they've been working on it the entire time. It'll be about 5 years by the time it's out. They were developing it for the PS4. Like, they didn't start developing God of War for PS5. The PS5 barely existed at the time that they started developing this game. And the story, from what we know, was developed prior. I mean, it was already kind of drawn out a little bit. I mean, I've listened to a lot of Cory Barlog. They had a story. They had story ideas prior to this. So that's why I kind of saw this as like always a PS4 game, And while I do agree, I think the ambitions were probably limited. They're probably going to just make up for it in graphic fidelity. But like, let's say they probably could have done some interesting things that we won't see until God of War 3, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, the third one in this trilogy will definitely be a next gen exclusive, especially because this generation is going to be extended. I get why people are upset about this cross gen. I don't think they have a reason to be. I don't think that this is a surprise.
The line.
I don't know if it's lying so much as misleading. They made it seem like they were going to be different than Xbox. They weren't going to be putting their first party games on Xbox One X and Series X.
Yeah.
Forza is coming out for Xbox One X. I guarantee it. Even if it's not announced. Halo, I disagree with you. I believe it absolutely will be on One X.
You do? Okay.
Absolutely. And I don't think it's going to be that big of a downgrade. But they said they were going to be different than Xbox. They believe in generations. This is a stop. And then we're going to make next gen games.
Do you think in their mind the controller is like what they're kind of talking up? Because that is the real next gen evolution of this console. It's not, I guess, maybe the loading times, right? Like
load times in the controller. I mean, DualSense, I used it at your house that once, and that's the only experience I have with it. But it is supported on PC now. The triggers and everything. Yeah. I forget which game it's supported.
I'm sure
with.
Microsoft will create a comparable version eventually.
They legally can. I'm sure they're looking into it, but
what else is next gen about a PS5?
It's a better.
I love my PS5.
It's the storage technology is very advanced for a variety of reasons. It's something that PCs can't even do yet. There's technology in the works right now for.
Go ahead. Finish your statement. Finish your statement.
There's technology that works right now with PCs to allow them to access SSDs in a similar way to how the consoles do it, giving the video card direct access to the SSD without having to go through the normal CPU motherboard channels. It's just a direct line, as far as I understand it anyway, which is what the consoles do, which is why they're so fast and why you can't just plug in a hard drive to it and make it fast.
Well, do you think that they're going to be like, hey, there's no loading times for God of War 2? Like on PS5, like you literally, everything is seamless. Like you open a door, they already didn't really have many loading times or anything like that.
There was no load screens in God of War at all.
Right, exactly. So maybe that's their kind of thing, is like, we don't even have loading screens anyway. So it's like, as long as it runs at least 60 frames a second, we'll give you ray tracing. We'll give you, because it probably won't do ray tracing on the PS4, right?
No, not even exactly. Not without Super FX or AMD's.
Exactly, right? So maybe in their mind, that is the next gen experience that they're talking about.
I'm sure it is, but is that? If they were told this is a PS5 game, make use of the SSD in some crazy way, maybe they change the game.
Yeah, and that's where I think Ratchet has that benefit, right?
Right.
Like the jumping between worlds and whatnot.
Yeah, Ratchet is a game that could not work on the PS4. I believe
Correct.
them. Yeah. From
Yeah. Well,
everything
I
I've
guess,
seen.
but for like, if we go back to what I was saying, right, with ray tracing and whatnot, maybe the visual fidelity of God of War will be so beautiful on the PS5 in comparison to the PS4. Like Cyberpunk in comparison to their versions.
So it'll
And
work.
obviously, yeah, no, obviously not
And
to
you
that
can buy
level.
it. Yeah.
Right. But it'll probably like maybe God of War 2 will look, or Ragnarok or whatever. I know that's not the final name. Maybe it'll look like God of War 1, where when you look at God of War Ragnarok on the PS5, it'll look like literally like almost a different game to some degree visually.
Yeah, you're going to see the ray tracing. You're going to see true 4K, maybe not, checkerboarding or DLSS or
and then
something
the
controller input.
vibes,
I mean,
the
I'm
audio.
sure you'll be feeling that axe throwing and snapping back at you when it comes back. Like,
Can you imagine how good that's going to feel on the dual sense though?
right. That's where you're going to see the improvements. I don't think you're going to see much outside of like 4K 60.
I'll be honest with you though. I think that, and I heard Colin kind of talking about this on this, and I love referring to them because they're my favorite show of video games at this point. But he always complains about, there's no reason for this console. I completely disagree. Okay. I think the PS4 is so outdated. It sounded like it was taking off in my living room. I couldn't stand using it anymore. I love my PS5. I could leave it on all day. It works tremendously. Like, it's beautiful console, the new control. Like, in my opinion, I was ready for the jump. The only issue is getting people to that next hardware. But again, if you look at the PS4 Pro, it was selling at $400. So it's like that for $400, and then the PS5 for $500. It's a great value if you're buying a next gen console.
Right.
I mean, in my opinion,
Microsoft did the same thing. They didn't drop that with the One X price. Hardly at all.
Right.
And then
that's more powerful
Series 6 came
than
out.
the Pro.
Yes, significantly. It's more powerful than the 1S in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I get it. And I get why people are upset. They thought that but you're getting a great game. These guys aren't going to fuck you. So
yeah, I agree. And it's going to be
chill. Just chill. You'll buy it. Everyone's going to buy it.
Everybody's going to buy it anyway. And stop harassing people. It's a guy. I know people who are listening to this are probably, we have a very small audience.
Was it Alana Pierce that got those threatening tweets? I think?
Yeah, but Corey Barlog also.
Yeah. It's
dude, people are insane.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Again, on the side, I run a Philadelphia Flyers website and YouTube channel, all this stuff. Like, I don't get death threats or anything like that, but people come after me for, my hockey takes. Like, I can only imagine,
coming to get you, buddy.
Yeah, it's dude, but the ravenous way that people behave over video games, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we get to this one day. Bring it on.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait for them to track my kid down at his elementary school.
You made a call on that game. It didn't come out when you said it was going
you didn't give it a 7.5. He gave it a 7.4. I'm gonna go calling a bomb threat to your school.
Just wait until we do game reviews.
Oh my god.
All right, this is probably a good place. Let's take a break here. We'll regroup up and then we'll finish
coffee.
Up. Yeah, coffee and probably bathroom. All right. Let's continue with our next topic here. Sony Bend Studio announces they're working on a new game. It's not Days Gone 2. As we know, Sony kind of axed that one, even though the game is now on PC. New IP. I believe it's going to be an open world as well, Ben.
So I don't know that.
I heard that's rumored, but I don't know if that's true 100%.
Yeah, I'll read the tweet from Ben Studios.
Sure.
So they tweeted out, "We are beyond grateful for your support with Days Gone and are truly honored by the amount of passion our community has shared with us for our world and characters. Your enthusiasm motivates us to continue to improve and create experiences that will last a lifetime. From Siphon Filter to Resistance, Retribution, to Uncharted, Golden Abyss, and Days Gone, we're very excited to announce today that we are expanding the Ben Studio portfolio with a brand new IP. We hope you embark on this new journey with us, and we can't wait to show you what we've been working on." So, not Days Gone 2.
I think, look, I personally, I really enjoyed Days Gone too, but I don't necessarily need to go, or I'm sorry, Days Gone. I don't necessarily need to go back into that world though. I didn't play the game. Like, I think on its own, I would go back and just replay the game. It's a good game. But I think if they can do what they did with Days Gone, and they can apply that methodology towards a new game again, if it's an open world game, I think even better, because I think they made a really good open world game. And I think that they can make an even better one from the lessons learned. So I'd be interested in something, because what I liked about Days Gone is that it was unique, right? We don't have a lot of games where you ride a motorcycle around, where you're like a biker and it's mixed in. You have these big hordes. So can they apply that towards something else? Like I'm dying for Fable, but I'd love an open world, like medieval game of some sort from them, or something. I don't know. I'm kind of just throwing stuff around, even like a space game, or maybe just the end of the world in a different type of context, right? Like maybe it's not zombies, maybe it's like nuclear war or something like that. I don't know. I'm intrigued by it. We're probably not going to get it for a while, whatever it is. It's going to take probably at least 3 years from what we're hearing about it. It's my guess.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a while. I mean, they're a great studio. Yeah, like they said in their tweet, like Siphon Filter games, I remember playing them as a kid on the original PlayStation. Uncharted Golden Abyss was one of the best. It was an amazing Vita game. It was basically a full-fledged Uncharted. It was great.
It was the only thing Sony had that gave that promise of the Vita, that said it was going to be a full-fledged game. Essentially what the Switch is today.
And I can bring it up now, I guess, since we're running along anyway. But Days Gone, dude, I'm loving that game. I'm absolutely loving it, and they killed it. I think the story has got me hooked. Characters, one thing, and the conversations they seem so natural, and they seem how people would talk to each other in something like this, with their mannerisms and their interrupting one another, slangs. Like it seemed like they put two people in a room and gave them an outline saying this is what's going on, to have a conversation about it, and they kind of did. I had a great moment where I was playing, I was out of gas, I'm running around trying to find a gas can, and I come across a horde, and I'm like, I'm really underpowered. I'm early in this game. I'm like 3 hours of this game, so I'm like, what? I know there's gas over there, so I'm like, I'll try and kite them. I'll try and take them out. Yeah. So I died trying to do it. The second time, I threw grenades, I threw Molotovs, I was taking them out, dodging all over the place, diving, shooting like dozens and dozens of these zombies. Finally killed the last of them, and I'm like, shouldn't I get some kind of like notification that I killed a horde or something crazy? And like, a really anticlimactic. I go around the corner, and there's the rest of the horde. Like, I killed like a third of it. I had no ammo left. I had no nothing, and I just had to give up at that point. But I was so proud of myself for like 30 seconds, and I see in the future getting the right gear and the right weapons and traps and being able to take them out, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
And bike becomes more fun.
Motorcycle riding, the physics of it seem great. When you hit mud, it slides out from under you, or it doesn't seem like they just made a car with two wheels.
Right.
The thing that surprised me the most is the character development in the game, because every review I saw made me think this was some cheesy whatever. I'm still early. I'm still getting the flashbacks on how Deke knows Sarah, met Sarah and all Sarah, right? All that stuff. But I can't wait to play more. And if we weren't recording this right now, I'd be playing. This is eating into my Days Gone time while Oliver sleeps.
It's we'll say it's worth it. Honestly, that makes me so happy to hear, because you remember how I was reacting when I played that game, and I like go back and watch those reviews, and I'm like literally going like, what are you guys talking about? And I'll call her out, Callie Pleggy or whatever. This girl is a problem. I don't care if people have a problem. That's not the first time I've seen her do this with a game, where it's like, why are these people becoming the arbiter for a game that clearly she is not qualified to review? And you can rip on it for certain little things. She made fun of the dialogue. She made fun of the zombies looking the same. Like, none of this stuff mattered. And she gave it a 5.4. I'm like, what game are you playing?
That's
why I said, At minimum, it's a 7. Okay, I can understand you didn't launch with some bugs, but it's a good game.
If I had only gotten what I got so far, it's still above a 5.4.
A 5.4 is a forgettable game, and this is not a forgettable experience.
Yeah, so it's a great game. They nailed it. I'm not fully versed on the circumstances around what was going on with the market around that time or what else was coming out, but I somehow it went under the radar, got killed in the reviews.
You got killed in the reviews.
I just don't understand how. I mean, maybe I heard it's
think
long.
It's political, personally.
I heard it's long.
It is,
but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't.
Last of Us is long.
I'll reserve judgment until I'm through. But I bought you recommended this game to me last year when Last of Us 2 was coming out, and I bought it on PlayStation 4 and I started playing it. And I'm like, yeah, it's decent. And then it was just a holdover till Last of Us came out.
Yep.
Smoked through Last of Us. Mostly excited when it gets spoiled on the internet. I wanted to go back on Reddit. And then just never really felt the need to go back to it.
Sure.
But now, especially on the PC, they did such a good job with the PC port.
Yeah.
It runs butter smooth. Getting like I don't even know what I'm getting in frame rates, but I have no complaints with frame rate. Tons of options for quality. Controls are great. Remap the controls. Game launches quickly.
Yep.
You don't have a million splash screens to go through. It's just there's a new mod that came out yesterday, I think, that like triples the size of hordes and makes them faster and more dangerous. So maybe I'll play that one day. But so to circle back to this, I think they got a raw deal with this game.
Yep.
And they tried to pitch Days Gone 2 and were denied. And I it's unfortunate that we're probably never going to see Days Gone 2 now, because if they're not doing it now, they're never going to do it. I don't think so. The original team's going to move on or scatter or do other things.
But I will say there's a lot of game there,
Yeah.
I could see it maybe being remastered again in the future, something like that. But there's a lot of game there. I don't know if it's necessarily a game that needs a number 2.
You got to see it on PC. I don't think it needs a remaster. It is gorgeous.
And I started. I didn't really get to play, but I just started it up on the PS5 just to see the patches. It runs buttery smooth. I know they don't do like the larger hordes and whatnot, but they added the mechanics of the accelerometer aiming, which I love, which Last of Us did that as well. So that's actually pretty exciting to play a Last of Us 2 with it. But I'll say, like, I never I think it came out at the wrong time and maybe people were burnt out, but that's not the reason it got poor reviews. And I don't care if people get upset. I remember people saying, oh, another generic white guy. I do remember that those statements being said when the game came out. And I hate that shit. And I don't care what the race or gender of any character is. Like, knocking a game for you yourself not wanting that kind of game, then you shouldn't review it. Then that game is not for you to review, and you're not supposed to be the arbiter. And thank God we have a system today where we have user reviews kind of dominating, the reviews of these arbiters on the internet, because a lot of these people, they come and go, and who cares what they have to say. This game should have never been knocked as hard as it was knocked. It's not a perfect game. It has flaws to it, but it's a game that people absolutely should try. You should, if you like open world games, if you like games that have deep mechanics and the leveling up of not just, like you have the skill trees, you have the different all the different weaponry you have. It took like all the best elements of like the Last of Us gameplay,
crafting system.
Yeah, exactly. And it took all those systems and they made it a little deeper. And it worked really well. It's a really fun game. Like, I don't see it as a 9, but I see it as like an 8 to 8.5 in my eyes. And I haven't even played the PC version. So to me, it's not a game you pass up. It's a game that you definitely play. Play it on the PS4 if you have a PS4. Play it on the PC, obviously, if you have it. But I think it's a must play. I think it's going to be one of those games, Ben, where it's probably going to be a cult classic forever. And people are going to be like, it'll be like people are going to be talking about it as, why isn't this a game that got a second game? And maybe that'll change one day. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
That might change one day. But I think in their mind, they're like, well, why even rehash this, right? When this studio is capable of something amazing anyway. So let's just do new IP. Like, why not do a new IP?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. It's definitely not going to be like some kind of post-apocalyptic game.
Like
But
no
if they would
zombies.
yeah, no zombies.
Do you think it's because of The Last of Us that they're kind of like, well, we got The Last of Us already. I don't know if we need another
Yeah,
zombie game.
yeah. I think that's exactly what.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know what they're gonna do. Hopefully, it's we're not gonna hear about it for a long time.
I would love to
If
see a
they
Fable competitor for
some kind
Sony.
yeah, yeah, they need something like that. I don't know. Need is a strong word, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a strong word. It's like Xbox the one competing, but I'd love to see like something like Sword and Shield. I love that stuff. So for me,
mm,
it's like, or either that, or I mean, like, remember that game Resistance? That was a pretty good exclusive back in the day. The
yeah,
Resistance Fall of Man.
yeah. The trilogy, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like that World War II alien invasion. Like
Mm.
that's another element to explore here as well. It's kind of
Alternate history
post-apocalyptic.
games.
Yeah, I love
Alternate
that.
history is big right now.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. Like
Yeah.
even Wolfenstein, especially the last one, New Order, not the New Blood or whatever, the New Order one. I liked. That's the one I actually played.
New
Uh,
Order, Old Blood, and
yeah, Old Blood.
then well, the Old Blood was
The girls.
the DLC. No,
That's the one that failed,
that was
right?
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a co-op
Anyway,
game.
but New Order, like that had like a Star Wars vibe. You know what I mean? Where it was like, obviously it's the concept of the Nazis in World War II, but
Mhm.
it's something to explore there. I think there's options for them to explore at least, and some for them to do something cool because they show they can do it. So,
Oh yeah, they have the talent. Yeah, we'll see.
okay. All right, let's move on here. More Battlefield leaks. Yeah, reportedly called Battlefield 2042. So we're gonna have near future. We referenced this last time on last episode. You know, I'm not as interested in Battlefield at this point. I don't know if the story is going to do anything for me personally, but I do think obviously this is a huge game, and obviously can make a large dent in the industry if they can hit a home run here. They're going to have to do a little bit of catch up work.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think it's still exciting. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna throw up some of these details on the screen, but
Yeah.
honestly, it's stuff that's better just seen in person. They have things about the attachment system and squads, and there'll be some kind of hero system. I guess similar to Star Wars Battlefront, where like one person on your team can be on your squad will be big. Did you ever play Battlefield 2142 back in the day?
Yes, I believe. Yeah, I played with you.
Yeah.
With the drop ships and everything.
Dude, how cool was that game?
That
I
game
still
was very
remember
cool.
that there were a lot of games back in that day that were way ahead of their time, that were massive in scope, little jank, but not necessarily a terrible thing. I still remember you'd have battles on the ground, you'd have mechs, you'd get in these drop pods that blast you up into the sky, and then you'd try and come down on the enemy drop ship, and then you'd have fights in the drop ship. You don't see stuff like that right now. Like I talked last week about how in Battlefield 1942, you'd get in your plane from the aircraft carrier and fly away. It was there.
I do remember that game well. That was actually my favorite. That's the one that I
played the hell out of that game.
Yeah.
Even Battlefield 2, you get a chopper, fly, you get a jet. They're in the world. You don't see that stuff right now. Like nowadays, with the game design, I don't know why this is, but if a battle extended to the carrier, you'd have like a fade to black, and then you'd be on the carrier, and you just spawn on there. There's a game called PlanetSide 2 that I played for a while that had similar things, massive battles, massive ships, like talking MMO size with first person shooter.
I remember that.
So things like that are, I think, way ahead of their time, and I think we've regressed a lot in game design. So I'm hoping that Battlefield 2042, alleged leaked name, gets us somewhere back there, but it seems to be closer to our time than 2142's Mech Warrior with floating airships and shit.
To be honest with you, though, it's probably easier to balance without that stuff. As far as like, you got to balance the mechs with the, though I will say Titanfall did it very well. And
on a smaller scale, though.
Yes,
You
exactly.
don't have
Well,
45 versus 45 with Titans.
exactly, and it's such a complicated thing to do. And I think we mentioned this last time, but we might hear another Titanfall coming soon.
As one of my, no, that wasn't one of my predictions.
Yeah, that was. I think it was, which
Yeah.
I love that
Yes, it
prediction.
was. Yeah, no, I standing by it, even though we've
Okay.
had zero rumblings.
I like it. I mean, again, they've earned the right to do whatever they want.
The hell they have, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right.
Yeah, I don't think there's much else to say about
Okay.
that.
Yeah, let's move forward. All right. Let's move on to Horizon Forbidden West. Okay. The differences between PS4 and PS5 versions. Obviously, this has come up quite a bit. We'll talk about the face thing in a minute. I don't want to talk about that first.
No,
because it's really not important to me at all.
It's stupid, but I mean, it's been in the news. We should at least touch on it.
Yeah, we can definitely touch on it. But overall, it looks like kind of what I was referencing with God of War, that this is going to be a graphic fidelity jump from the PS4 to the PS5. You're going to see a vastly superior visually experience, but you're still going to see a beautiful game on the PS4. So this is, again, one of those cases where the game was being built for the PS4, obviously, and was kind of being, enhanced for the PS5. I don't see a big problem with this. I know that we're going to see some beautiful graphics. We already saw it, right? They were obviously running it on PS5.
That hair.
Yeah. And realistically, we're seeing it through a stream on our display. Like it's going to look much better at home, especially if you're able to run it in full scale. Like I'm going to have it in 4K HDR as well at home. So I'm pretty excited to see it. What do you think about this, the comparison to PS4, PS5?
I think it'll look better on PC in 2023. But
probably if they can get the launch right.
Yeah, so Matt Purslow from IGN got some additional details about this. I'll just try and blow through this pretty quick, but
okay.
Visually, we can add a lot more detail. The rendering technique for the underwater scenes is special for the PlayStation 5. It has extra details and extra systems. Like the wave technique is better on that system. As well as improved water and environmental details, the PS5 is able to make use of a cinematic grade lighting system that the PS4 can only use in cutscenes. So I think that's actually important to stop on, or at least touch on.
That'll be a God of War thing as well.
Yeah, real-time lighting. Lighting is one of the most taxing things in video games. It's why ray tracing is so taxing on video cards. So they can do in real time what in the PS4 they're going to have to script ahead of time, or at least program the lighting ahead of time. Yeah. We have a special cinematic lighting rig that on the PS4 is only in cutscenes because the game is not running, and we have more processing power in those scenes. But the PlayStation 5, we have plenty of processing power, so we can have that lighting always available. And she always looks great with that lighting setup, traveling with her anywhere. Additionally, as noted by Twitter account Nibel, interview with French YouTuber, blah, blah, blah. The PS5 version supports a 60 frames per second mode, a performance mode, but it is unclear what sacrifices will be made to achieve 60 frames per second. On PS5, I don't think you're going to see very many sacrifices.
Yeah, agreed. And probably after this, hopefully soon, the AMD update might be even less.
Yeah.
Solid 60 frames probably on both, just not same capabilities.
Yeah, I would assume that anything they do, I'm not sure about the graphics processor in the PS4 is actually. I don't know if that's AMD based.
That's a good question. I think it is.
It is AMD. Yep.
Yeah, I think it is. Because AMD is cheaper. So why wouldn't they go with AMD at the time?
Not necessarily cheaper.
A little bit.
I mean, it's dollar per frames per dollar. It's cheaper.
I mean, if you're manufacturing millions of these, every dollar matters, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they got some sort of deal. It's also more open.
There had to be a reason. And Nvidia itself, like like you were saying, they have the GeForce. Like they compete kind of on a different level too.
I've always been a GeForce guy.
Yeah, same.
Always bought GeForce. Always bought Intel up until actually my current PC is a Ryzen 5.
Yeah.
But it's my first AMD anything. Nvidia's done a lot for this industry. They innovate a lot. They do a lot of new technologies. I would assume it came down to cost, like you said.
Yeah.
Why they didn't? Nvidia probably wanted more money.
Yep. I mean, I'll tell you, eventually I'm going to want a computer for both. I'll want both just for funsies. because I'm
Yeah.
stupid and I spend a lot of money on tech stuff and I can.
You got that Flyers podcast money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all the money that niche audience brings in. All right. Let's move past that and let's talk about the Aloy face controversy.
Yeah.
I see the difference. I literally could care absolutely less.
So
I have no idea why anybody cares at all, to some degree. I guess maybe it could be the again another political thing, but I personally don't care. We also are staring at one little cutscene. We don't know why these decisions happen. We don't know the age. We don't know the differences.
Right.
We have no idea. We know nothing, and
Exactly.
this is just more outrage culture. I think
Right.
overall, if you look at her face, they clearly redesigned the face in general
Right.
to some degree. So
yeah, I didn't notice it live. So that's
Same.
how close it is. There's a lot of hateful things being put on Twitter in response to this. People putting up renders of Aloy like in full makeup and stuff. That's how it should be. Very offensive shit. My only question is why change whatever she looked like in the first
she
game?
was an
why
outcast
alter it?
initially. Well, she was an outcast initially, so maybe she wasn't eating as well, and things have changed. She's now kind of like a king there, so she's just fattening her up. No, I have honestly, my guess is there might be a touch of some of this political nature of like the body sensitivity stuff. It's possible. I mean, this game is made in a certain place that does care about this stuff. Having said that, it could just be an artistic direction.
Yeah.
Overall with the game.
I also don't know who the model is for this. It's possible that they're getting closer to her look or farther. I mean, maybe they had a vision for how she was supposed to be in the first game and they weren't allowed to do it for political reasons. And now they're able to make her how they wanted to make her. Like,
yeah.
So,
there's going to be a lot of visual differences between the games. Why they would focus on just her face?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I'm sure there's a reason for why they changed it, whether we ever know that reason.
Link doesn't look the same from game to game. Why aren't people freaking out? Like literally every Zelda game, there's a different version of Link.
I honestly think this is a reverse issue, actually, that this current image is how she was supposed to look in the first game.
And they just couldn't achieve it?
No, I think Sony or whoever at the time was like, nah, take some clothes off, make her thin, make her sexy.
That's
a
new
IP.
Point.
We want to put her on the cover and we want all the stuff. And now they got some juice and they can be like, no, this is how we envisioned her. We sold, however millions of copies. This is how it's going to be.
I think that's a really good point, and I think you might be closer to the truth than I was. You know what I mean? Because you're absolutely right. They now have the reputation to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So, I think well said.
Whatever. Gabe looks great. Aloy looks great. Very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I don't care how fat her face is. I'm still gonna play it.
I pinched those cheeks.
It's still a day one purchase. What are you gonna do? Are you planning on try to get a console to play it, or are you just gonna wait? Because you're not gonna wait 2 years to play this game, are you?
No, I'll see what the current landscape is.
If you can even find a PS5, or you're gonna come play it at my house.
By the time this game comes out, I'll find a PS5. We'll see. Yeah.
You can find them. If we found those 3070s, I can find you.
You found a 3070.
Well, then I can find you a PS5, can't I? All right. Let's move on to the next topic. And this is pretty cool.
New Splinter Cell.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's a pretty big deal. My buddy Warren, he was definitely waiting for this. Ubisoft reportedly working on Tom Clancy's PvP game that combines Splinter Cell, The Division, and Ghost Recon. I think a lot of people were waiting for Splinter Cell to be announced in general. Obviously, is a big deal to combine those properties together. They'll kind of make sense because they're all in the same world. We'll see exactly what the gameplay of this will be. But I imagine it'll be more stealth oriented considering, we're bringing Splinter Cell, or at least there'll be a more attention brought to stealth. Like to the same degree where like The Last of Us is not really a stealth game, right? But it does have stealth elements into it, right?
Yeah. So this a Twitter user posted some stuff that was clearly real about a project called Battle Cat. when it combined Splinter Cell, Ghost Recon, Breakpoint, and Division into a multiplayer only Tom Clancy game. First person shooter, even though the only first person you saw in Splinter Cell was in the multiplayer modes in Pandora Tomorrow, I think, where it was spies versus mercs. The mercs were first person. I'm not thrilled about this, but I don't think this affects getting a new Splinter Cell. I don't think this was a replacement for Splinter Cell. I don't think they said, fuck Splinter Cell, let's just make a multiplayer game. I think we're still getting a new Splinter Cell. I'm not going to play this.
I'm not playing this.
I don't.
No, to your point, though, I think it's them bringing the property back in and probably not just testing the waters. They know that there's a demand for this.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So you got to figure that if they're bringing this in, it means that they probably are interested in bringing the property back altogether. Right.
I hope so. I loved Blacklist. I know it wasn't everyone's favorite, but I loved Blacklist.
But do you think the issue with Splinter Cell is that it was a stealth heavy game?
Yes.
Even though Hitman obviously has done well. Could you
Hitman
do a
did
Hitman?
not do well though. Hitman was the developer, or the developer was dropped by their publisher.
Right, but the game itself was acclaimed critically, at least.
Critically, but they were basically told, we're going to cut you loose, and they had to buy. I think they bought the Hitman property from. I forget the publisher's name, so they could continue making it. And now, yes, it's very successful with Hitman 2, Hitman 3. I played Hitman 2 a couple months ago.
Well, stealth games, I don't think that they sell that well.
They don't.
Like we were talking about Dishonored. I don't play stealth games. I play games that have a little bit of stealth in them. Mm-hmm. But when they're primarily a stealth game, like I don't have the patience for it. I'm too ADD. I want to go out there. I just want to kill, And I think but if they can balance it a little bit better, and maybe they can make an element of Splinter Cell where it's a little more action driven, which is not very fair because it's not very true to the property.
Did you play Blacklist?
No.
So Blacklist did a lot of that. So you may actually enjoy it. There was different ways of playing Blacklist. You could do completely stealth. Mm-hmm. You could play what they call Panther, which is what I played as, where you would just go around killing people in stealth, not being seen, but leaving a body count.
Yeah.
And then there was I don't know what, mass murder or whatever they called it, where it was just straight up action where you just go around shooting people.
Yeah, that's my type of action.
I played Panther. It was fun. You tag 4 people in a room, drop in, boom, 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 boom. But yeah, I don't remember. But I thought it was great, and it was a mix. It was critically received well. I guess it didn't sell.
Yeah, I have a feeling. It's interesting. It's actually Splinter Cell is probably one of those properties that probably should have got a movie.
Well, yeah, they got Michael Ironside as the voice. I mean, he's done enough movies. I think he might be a little too old at this point.
Right, but it is a character that can sell. And that's where I'd be interested to see could they put it as even a Netflix TV show and make it something interesting like that, and then that's where you can reignite the game. I bet that throwing into this PvE thing is they are PvP. They have to be thinking we have a really interesting property here. We have to do something with it, and that I don't think it'll be announced at E3 though. Do you? Do you think they'll
maybe? I mean, they've teased us for years. We're planning on playing. We're going to play Breakpoint together, Ghost Recon at some point soon, next couple days. But
I started downloading it.
There's a mission in Breakpoint. That's Splinter Cell. Sam Fisher, Michael Ironside's voice, and you got to go extract him from a mission that he's on. It's a whole thing, and so they're putting Splinter Cell, or they're putting Sam Fisher in games.
Wouldn't that be so awesome? Like Metal Gear Solid 5, right?
Oh yeah.
That game was very good. It was definitely more focused on stealth, though it allowed you to do pretty much everything. But something in that vein with that's a game I would play. Mm-hmm. Right. And that gives you the option to, go gung ho if you want. Right. If they give you kind of maybe not a huge open world, but some kind of open world environment where you can go from base to base, You know what I mean? Collect guys, rescue people.
Yeah,
You know
you
what I
see
mean?
shades of that in Ghost Recon,
Right.
Wildlands, and
Why would they
Breakpoint.
not take advantage of that? That's what I'm saying. Splinter Cell would sell. Just the name alone would sell.
I mean, you have
Extra
to
copies.
believe that they have been making Splinter Cell in some form for the last 5, 6 years, and maybe the ideas didn't come through or it didn't work out, whatever. But they got to know there's a demand. They had to have been building
Yeah.
something. They wouldn't continue to put Sam Fisher in these games if they didn't have plans for a Splinter Cell.
Yeah. I agree with you. All right. Let's move on from that one. We'll skip the next topic. We're going to talk about that next week. So let's move on to Far Cry 6 to include third-person mode and dropping the map editor. I got excited about the third-person mode, but then you corrected me and said, "Hey, don't get excited. You're probably not going to care too much about it." But in my mind, I was like, "Oh, third person." I was like, "That probably will make me play Far Cry 6," even though I do enjoy it in first person as well.
Yeah.
But you said that it's really just inside of the base.
Yeah,
Essentially,
so
you have.
yeah, Natalie Clayton, PC Gamer, is where I got these quotes from. But speaking with one of the developers, in cinematics, third person is something the team tried early on, and it felt surprisingly seamless. The narrative director told GameSpot, actually, this is quoted from PC Gamer though. It's instantly felt like there was more of a connection to Danny's journey in the world, more of a connection to the story in Yara. But you'll even be able to walk around Far Cry 6's guerrilla camps in either first or third person, showing off your outfits and loadouts as you chat to your fellow revolutionaries. Sadly, you can't play through the entire game in third person. Kavari noted that leaving the camp will shift the camera right back into Danny's head, only popping out when the game's only popping out when using the game's backpack, so players can see all of the backpack's effects and better feel its impact in action. I assume those are the flying like jetpacks or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you're walking around your little bases, you can use third person. Congratulations.
Yeah. It's interesting why they can't just do a third person mode. I mean, the Battlefield and Battlefront games were able to achieve that. I'm not sure why.
I mean, it's not the design of the game.
I mean, it would make
Do you ever
driving.
play Anthem?
Anthem?
Yeah.
No, I actually wanted to until I heard so many bad things about it.
Yeah, it sucked. But when you were in your little base, you were in first person, walking around the city.
Okay, so I did the opposite.
And they did the reverse. Yeah, when you're out in the world, you're a third person mech. So there's something to be said for it. If they think that it's better with the narrative, so be it. I loved the narrative first person modes.
Yeah, I don't get it.
All the Far Cry games, but I think they're going to be trying. I think they're going to be trying to tell a more maybe a serious, grounded story.
I don't see, but where it's funny because when you're saying that, I was like, but part of the appeal of like, I'm thinking back to Far Cry 3, which I thoroughly enjoyed, was like, you really saw the characters' faces. And in third person, you don't get that as much.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's why I love the storytelling of God of War and the, and The Last of Us. They make those, those really intense cutscenes. I feel like this is a weird direction to take if that's the route that you want to go.
Yeah, I don't know how this is going to play out.
I have a feeling this game is going to be not bad. I definitely don't think it's going to be a bad game by any stretch, but I have a feeling this game is going to be somewhat of a disappointment to some degree.
I hope not. What is a disappointment though is the map editor being removed from the game.
Yeah, and that's also huge.
I don't. The map editor has been there since Far Cry 3. I watched a video the other day of somebody who recreated all of the N64 GoldenEye game in Far Cry 5's map editor.
That's sick.
Recently, it took them years to do it. I loved playing. My friend Anthony, I used to work with. We would play Far Cry 4 co-op together. We would pick up random missions, and we'd clear out outposts. We'd do like bow and arrow only, walking around, custom maps. We'd just load up 10 maps and go through them.
Oh, I mean, don't you think that increases the longevity of a game too?
I guess there's data showed it didn't, but I don't know.
But it did. It does with other games like like Skyrim. That game probably wouldn't exist without the map editing. And
I don't think this is a new engine either. I think it's a modified engine. So
I would imagine it's not like mentioned.
how much work is it to really just bring the map editor over? I
May,
don't have the answer to that, but
I wonder if it's one of those things where maybe they'll look at like post-launch content where they could bring it back, as like a DLC, even a free DLC.
maybe
Just
maybe
here
there's
because,
demand too.
and maybe that's kind of their thought is like, hey, if we hear enough complaints, we'll bring it back. But up until then, we want to save the resource cost. We don't want to put it in there because maybe like you said, they're looking at their analytics and they're saying, hey, people don't actually use this.
Yeah, I mean, they
It's
see
like 5%.
everything. These companies see everything.
Absolutely.
Too. They know where you get in the game. They know how long it takes you to figure out a puzzle. Like they get these statistics or whatever.
Yeah.
Analytics. So I guess they're analytics. I guess people didn't use it. I never built shit in the map editor. I'm not a very creative person, as you and I discussed earlier. But I loved going in like I do in Mario Maker and be like, show me the top rated maps. Why not start running them down?
Yeah, that's unfortunate because again, I feel like the longevity of a game can be increased, but maybe they don't want that. Maybe they want people off of the Far Cry 6 and on to Far Cry 7 when they release that. Because like you said, same engine. They release them like every 3 years, every 2.5 years, something like that.
They've gotten more spread out, but yeah. They've done these little interstitial ones like Primal and New Dawn to
yep. And Blood. Was it Blood Dragon?
That was one of the DLCs, I think.
Yeah, but that was when they first.
Was it a full game?
You could purchase it on its own.
Oh,
I do own it. I never played it in the end.
It was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly, Primal is the one that I really want to play because it's different.
Really?
Yeah, because it's different. It's very different than the other ones.
I'd play Primal if they gave me like an M4.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw a spear. I'll take out a woolly mammoth with like a 5.56 round.
Yeah. Oh, that would be interesting. Just go in there and just light up a bunch of prehistoric people.
Yeah. You're about to be extinct a couple thousand years early.
You combine Days Gone with Primal and just mow down.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now we're getting dark. All right. Let's go into the end of our segment because we're definitely running long on this one as we normally do. All right. So let's go into what we're playing. I'll go first and I guess we'll end on you, Ben. So what I've been playing, quite frankly, I've been away for a little bit, so I haven't really been able to play much. I've been playing Last of Us 2. Mm-hmm. I've put some more time in the past couple of days. I'm getting hooked on it again. The updates to the mechanics on the PS5, the new frame rate. The game still has some pacing issues. Like the first one just picks up so quickly and you're just sucked into it. This one, it's like cutscene, play the guitar, do this. And I'm just like, I want to get into the game. But I've gotten past that point.
Do you think that's because you know what's coming?
To some degree.
Yeah.
But I mean, I replayed Last of Us, the first one over and over again. And like the beginning of it was something I love to show off to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this one, it's like, it doesn't, it's almost like the earlier Uncharted, like Uncharted 2 started off so strong. Like when you're in the train, you know what I mean? It's just all this chaos. Like that was my favorite Uncharted also. I like games that hit you early. I guess that's usually like my thing is like, I like to get hit early and then slow down a little bit after that. And Last of Us now is kind of like, but again, it's a great game. And so far, I'm kind of hooked on it again. I don't know how much I'll be playing of it because, quite frankly, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intrograde comes out. It's funny I wrote retrograde here by accident. Intrograde comes out this week, so like 3 days after we film this. So I'm pretty excited for that. So I imagine I'm going to play that game from start to finish. And then as well, kind of a little gem of mine, Legends of Kingdom Rush comes out. If you guys have never played this, it is primarily a mobile game, but is a high-end mobile game. It's not a free-to-play. Legends of Kingdom Rush is a turn-based RPG version of their tower defense game. The tower defense game is available on Android and iOS and available through Steam. At this point, they made PC versions of them as well. These games are phenomenal. They definitely point back to StarCraft and Warcraft, and you can even hear like the characters. The unique thing about them is they allow for like a base building, but also barracks within it. So you build like barracks that stop the troops, and then you can upgrade everything, and everything has kind of like a skill tree to it. And then you have like an RPG character as well. They also have a game called Iron Marines, which is more free form, and it's kind of it's more like StarCraft. But again, these games are really awesome. So I've loved them. I put so many hours into those turn-based game or into the tower games. So I'm pretty excited to see what they do with the turn-based RPG. It's probably going to be pretty good, and it's not free to play. And I don't like free to play games for the most part. So that's a good one for me. So I would recommend that game. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's Ironhide Studios. They're Portuguese, I believe. Portuguese. Yeah, I believe they're Portuguese in Portugal. And they are a small studio. They're probably a lot bigger now, but definitely worth checking them out. If you haven't played that game, the first one is free. It doesn't have it doesn't have the RPG character. It just still has like a hero character, but there's no like leveling up really. There still is, but it's just a little modified. 100% worth playing, for sure on any phone or whatever. I played on my phone first and tablet. Highly recommend it. You said you tried it, Ben?
I tried Iron Marines on your recommendation. Yeah, I think a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Great game. I don't game on my tablet too much.
Yeah.
Or my phone. But yeah, it seemed great. It seemed like an RTS.
Yeah. And they pulled it off, and there really aren't good RTSs on the tablet.
There's not.
Which makes no sense to me. The fact that they didn't port even the old Command and Conquer games, like I know they made the remasters.
I believe they have.
No, they did. They did Red Alert 3. It's like unplayable. It's like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you do like the original? Yeah, because it's not a great game anyway. Why wouldn't you do like the original Command and Conquers, which they remastered? Why wouldn't you port that? It's just such an easy port.
Yeah, it'll run. I mean, you can run San Andreas on a phone.
Yeah, I never understood that.
It'll run Command and Conquer.
Yeah, and Red Alert 3 just wasn't a very strong game, and they made like a mobile version of it. It's like you can just run Command and Conquer on there. Right. So
just adjust the controls.
Yeah, or even the original StarCraft, like they can run that stuff. So make it happen at some point. Yeah, that's it for me. Well, Ben, what are you playing? I mean, we obviously mentioned Days Gone.
Yeah, talk about Days Gone. I'll more on that, I'm sure, every week for a while. As promised, I got into Biomutant a little bit. I'm an hour into it, so I'm still going to reserve judgment. I am playing on the old version before any patches are applied. Okay. I'm going to replay the same segments back to back because I want to see how it was when it got roasted. I see people's complaints. The narration. Have you heard about this? How the characters in the game don't actually speak dialogue. It does similar to what Hollow Knight does in a couple other games. Well, they'll be like,
so it's like The Sims.
Yeah, a narrator will be like, he's trying to tell you that you need to go over there. Blah, blah, blah.
That's annoying.
It's like a Fable-esque kind of narrator, and he's like, he seems very upset with you right now. Maybe you should leave. That doesn't bother me. Okay. It seemed a lot of reviewers destroyed that, but it didn't seem to bother me. There was one character that did bother me. Is like some like ferret that was talking like Elvis, like that got on my nerves. And
Nintendo games do that.
Yeah.
All the Zelda games.
I didn't mind the reminded me of Bastion. A lot of that Bastion overarching narrative. That didn't bother me.
Very cool.
Combat, I see a lot what people are saying. The game seems like it's supposed to be a melee combat game. Combos, swords, dodging. Then they give you a gun. There's no reason to not put your points into guns because you can just hang back and blast these guys and just dodge their attacks.
Yeah.
I've came up to a couple early bosses and I had all these combos I learned, but really if I was playing on a harder difficulty, I would have just hung back and just blasted them, unlimited ammo, reload, blast them, reload.
So it's not well balanced.
I think they need to make some changes to the combat. Lock-on system, I see how people would need it. I didn't get into an issue yet where that became a big problem. My biggest problem was not related to the game mechanics. It was that the dodge for Days Gone and the dodge for Biomutant are different. So I kept hitting spacebar to dodge, and I would just jump into the air. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to trying more of it. I will not finish that game. I don't care how good the patch is. I'm never going to finish it.
Yeah, I kind of figured
the story seems useless. The world's beautiful. It's very aliased, so
Okay.
so at a distance it looks great, but when you start to get up close, you see what they did to make it look that way. It's not as beautiful as you would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll get there. I'll see what they do post patch. The character creator was an interesting attempt where you, depending on where you put your skill points, it affects what your character looks like. If you put it all into strength, your dude's jacked. If you put it all into stealth, he's like a skinny little guy.
Okay.
But sometimes you just want your character to look a certain way and still be able to be a melee fighter. You may want like a small guy that can be melee. So I think they made a mistake there, forcing you down that road. I see what they were trying to do. I think it was a mistake. We'll see if they change it.
Okay. Fair enough. And honestly, it doesn't really sound like a game that I'll end up playing.
I would not recommend it right now.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that maybe I'll pick up on sale and just give it a shot if like I really just want an RPG type of experience.
You won't have to wait long, I'm sure.
Yeah, it doesn't seem it's not getting a sequel. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Do you want to do game recommendations here at the end?
Sure, I can recommend a game. So,
Okay.
which one to start a segment where we pick an older game? Doesn't have to be an old game, but an older game that we played that we think is worth trying. So mine is a game called Rebel Galaxy. It's one of my favorite games. I'm a big space nerd.
Yeah,
and it's like Star Trek. It's like Star Trek, but in a more gritty future. This is a video courtesy of IGN, so credit to them. But you pilot these massive capital ships around. You fly between different planets, picking up missions, upgrading your sorry, this audio is in my ear. Upgrading your starship, buying new weapons, selling materials that you find. It's a very solid game. It's not an overly complex game. It has a decent story, and I just love. It's a game that I see myself going back to all the time and replaying. Year after year.
I think I played this with you back in the day.
Did you?
I think I did.
It's really fun. Single player. It has single player. I'm assuming it has some sort of co-op. I don't. But is flying between planets. You activate your warp drive. The best part of it is the soundtrack. I really wish I could play some sound for you guys right now.
We'll figure that out next time.
It is basically like if you've ever seen Firefly.
Yeah,
it's basically Firefly music. It sounds like space western music.
That's dope.
Great soundtrack. Tons of ships to buy, tons of weapons to upgrade, customize the look of it, missions all over the place. Very great game. And they have there's a sequel to it, Rebel Galaxy Outlaws, which is a continuation of the game, but it's a smaller scale in that you pilot a small fighter in first person instead of third person, giant capital ships. So they did something different with the sequel.
That's a good recommendation there.
Yeah,
I would say, especially because that's probably not a game that they're going to be making another thing like it.
No, you'll never see another one like this.
Yeah.
Or you never see another. You're not going to see a Rebel Galaxy 2.
Yeah. All right, my game recommendation, and this one I'm bringing up because I keep bringing up Fable. So I don't know how many people have played because I recognize how old that game is at this point. So Fable 3 is on xCloud. It is very difficult to find anywhere else. You have to buy a physical copy. I don't even know if it would work on most people's PCs. For some reason, this game is not available to play easily. I imagine that'll probably change. Sooner or later, probably when they announce a release date for the new Fable. I imagine they might, kind of pop this one out there to get
Maybe
people excited. Yeah, but I really loved Fable back in the day. Fable 3 wasn't perfect by any stretch, but it was the best, most refined version of the Fable games. It was just kind of cool to be a king. And again, it's one of those things where you really don't see games like that anymore. Like you were talking about Biomutant, how you like evolve by your strengths. Like the game, you play it, and the more the more you eat, the more you do certain things in the game, the more you change. And it had like a really fun system. The downside of that game, it is way too easy. there's almost no difficulty there. You will essentially destroy everything by the end. And it had balancing problems. I mean, the game is not perfect, but as far as like a fantastical world, they nailed it. And there was a good story, and there was a lot of cinematic elements, and you could have a family and do the whole thing. The game was very much ahead of its time, but also didn't deliver on everything. But it is worth checking out. And I imagine, again, I'm very excited for the next Fable. I do trust in Playgrounds that I do think that they can make a better version of what Lionhead was trying to make. And I think they're really going to take their time with this game because it has an opportunity to really sell Xbox as a brand. And it will probably push PlayStation in a sense where PlayStation owns and dominates the third person, action games. I think this is a brand that would get me. And I'm a big PlayStation guy. I love all the consoles, quite frankly. I would have an Xbox if I wasn't a PC gamer. But quite frankly, this is a title that I think most people, if you didn't check it out, definitely check it out. Play the second one if you want. I know they remastered the first one. That one's easier to find for some reason. But yeah, definitely check out Fable.
Very good. It's a good time to do it. Get yourself ready for anyone, because I do think we'll be seeing it at E3.
Oh man, I hope so. I really, really hope they show us something. I know they gave us a trailer, and that it was just a teaser, but I would love to see even a little bit. Just tell me it's coming out in 2022. I don't care, but I want to see. I want to see what you got going on.
We'll find out in a week from Sunday. No, this Sunday, the 13th.
Yes. Which means next time we do this show, we're gonna have some interesting stuff to talk about. Especially, I think we're doing this one. We're doing it on a Tuesday. Hopefully, we'll keep doing it on Tuesdays. We'll see what happens. As long as they're late.
We might do a Reacts live, or not live, but we might watch the press conference together if we can make it happen. But
yeah, that would be awesome. We'll probably be able to figure it out. And not only that, we're about to head into Wednesday, so we probably should end the show right now.
I gotta work tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. This was obviously a good time. Thank you, everybody.
Always is.
Who is watching, who is listening. We know it's a small audience right now at this point. It's not going to stop us. We're going to keep going. I got other podcasts going on too. So we're going to keep this going. Like, subscribe, share our stuff. We could definitely use it. And remember to always play on gamers.